The music was loud, and the smell of expensive party jollof rice filled the air. Chooks sat on a decorated wooden throne, wearing a gold lace outfit that cost more than most people make in a year. He looked like a king. Across from him, Chidera walked slowly through the crowd. She was holding a small wooden cup filled with palm wine. Everyone held their breath. In an Igbo traditional wedding, this was the moment of truth. The bride must find her groom and give him the drink to show the world he was her husband. Chooks stretched out his hand, a proud and greedy smile on his face. He had waited years for this. He had lied, cheated, and sent his best friend to a cold prison cell just to stand here. As Chidera got close, she did not smile back. Her eyes were as cold as ice. Just as Chooks reached for the cup, Chidera pulled it away. She did not just stop, she walked right past him. The music died instantly. The elders lowered their fans. Chooks' hand stayed frozen in the air, empty and shaking. A black Land Cruiser SUV that had been parked quietly near the canopy suddenly felt important. Its engine had been running for several minutes. Then the door opened. A man stepped out, tall, calm, dressed in the exact same white and gold Isiagu material as the bride. For a moment, the entire compound fell silent. Then someone in the crowd whispered the impossible. "Is that not Jerry?" The groom's face drained of color, because the man walking towards him was the same best friend he had sent to prison 2 years earlier. But to understand how a wedding turned into an arrest scene, the story had to begin much earlier, back in Aba, where two best friends believed they were chasing the same dream, but one of them had already chosen betrayal.
10 years earlier, things were very different in the busy streets of Aba. Jerry and Chooks were like brothers. They shared everything, from their last plate of gari to their biggest dreams of traveling abroad. Jerry was the calm one, the kind of man who would give you his last money and still ask if you had eaten. He had a girlfriend named Chidera, a beautiful young woman whose gentle voice could calm a storm. Jerry loved her deeply, and Chidera loved him back. Chooks, on the other hand, was restless. He told everyone he had no time for women because his focus was money. Money first, every other thing later, he would say proudly. But inside him, something dark had started growing. Every time he saw Jerry and Chidera together, his smile hid a bitterness that nobody noticed. He did not just want success, he wanted Jerry's life. When the chance finally came for both men to leave Nigeria for Europe, the whole neighborhood celebrated. On the day they were to leave Aba for Lagos, Chidera came to see Jerry off. Tears stayed in her eyes, but Jerry kept assuring her. "This journey is for our future," he told her. "No matter what happens, I will not disappear from your life." Then the taxi driver began honking impatiently. Jerry turned to lift their bags. For one dangerous minute, Chooks found himself alone with Chidera. He leaned closer. "Your boyfriend is lucky he is my friend," he whispered. "If not, I would have snatched you from him. Nay, you are too beautiful." Chidera pulled back, unsettled. Something about his tone felt wrong. She wanted to tell Jerry immediately, but the taxi was already moving, so she kept quiet. That silence would cost all three of them more than anyone could imagine.
If this story is touching your heart, please take a second to subscribe. Your support truly means the world and helps us bring you more powerful stories. The journey abroad changed the two men in different ways. Jerry threw himself into honest work. He took extra shifts, saved carefully, and talked often about the future he wanted to build. Every spare minute he had, he called Chidera. He told her about the cold weather, the strange food, the hard work, and the dreams that kept him going. Chidera lived for those calls. Even from thousands of miles away, Jerry still felt close. Chooks walked too, but not with the same peace in his heart. The more he watched Jerry plan a future with Chidera, the more something poisonous grew inside him. He laughed with Jerry in public, but in private, his mind was always circling the same thought. Why should Jerry have everything? He tried subtle moves first. He joked that long-distance relationships never lasted. He hinted that Chidera might get tired of waiting. He suggested Jerry should enjoy foreign life and stop thinking too much about marriage. Jerry only smiled. If a woman loves you,
Distance is not the problem, he would say. Those words always stung Chooks. He began studying Jerry the way hunters study prey. He noticed where Jerry kept his documents. He knew his schedule. He knew his habits. He knew exactly how much trust Jerry had placed in him. That trust became the weapon. One evening, after another call where Jerry spoke excitedly about bringing Chidera abroad someday, Chooks sat alone in the apartment and stared at the wall for a long time. Then he made a decision. If he could not take Chidera from Jerry fairly, he would remove Jerry completely. It was not anger anymore. It was planning. And once Chooks started planning, his mind became very calm. That was the scary part. Because the most dangerous men are not always the loud ones. Sometimes they are the ones smiling quietly while deciding who must disappear.
The night everything changed looked ordinary. Jerry returned home tired from work, dropped his bag, and joked about how one day all this suffering would become a testimony. Chooks laughed along, hiding the small packet inside his jacket pocket. Hours earlier, he had bought it from a man on a side street, where no decent person wanted to be seen. Illegal drugs, enough to ruin a life. While Jerry was in the bathroom, Chooks moved fast. He unzipped Jerry's bag and pushed the drugs deep between folded clothes. His hands did not shake. His face remained calm. When Jerry came out, Chooks was sitting like nothing had happened. Then came the knock. Loud, aggressive, official. The police entered within minutes. They searched the apartment. Jerry watched in confusion. Chooks acted surprised. When the officers found the packet inside Jerry's bag, the room changed instantly. "No, that is not mine," Jerry shouted, but his words sounded weak beside the evidence. The officers cuffed him on the spot. Jerry turned to the only person he trusted in that country. "Chooks, tell them." For a second, their eyes met. Jerry looked desperate. Chooks looked shocked, pretending. "Don't worry," Chooks said. "It will be sorted out." It was the last lie Jerry heard as a free man. The police dragged him away. The door shut. The apartment became quiet. Then Chooks noticed Jerry's phone on the table. A few minutes later, it began to ring. Chidera. He watched the screen light up over and over. Finally, he blocked her number, switched the phone off, and leaned back in his chair. "Now the road is clear," he murmured. Thousands of miles away, Chidera had no idea her boyfriend had just been swallowed by a prison cell. All she knew was that suddenly, terribly, Jerry had gone silent.
At first, Chidera tried to be reasonable. Maybe Jerry was busy. Maybe his phone had a fault. Maybe work had become too demanding. But days turned into weeks, and the silence became frightening. She called every morning. She called every night. Sometimes she sent messages full of fear. Sometimes she sent angry ones. None went through. Her chest began to tighten each time she looked at her phone. Jerry had promised her many things before leaving Nigeria, but one promise stayed in her mind more than the rest. "No matter what happens, you will hear my voice." Now there was no voice. After several painful weeks, Chidera called the only person who might know something, Chooks. He answered with a heavy sigh, as if he had been expecting the call. "Chidera," he said quietly. Her heart jumped. "Where is Jerry? I can't reach him." There was silence on the line, a deliberate silence. Then Chooks spoke like a man carrying painful news. "Chidera, I did not know how to tell you." Fear crawled into her stomach. "Tell me what?" He lowered his voice. "Jerry has changed." Chidera gripped the phone harder. Chooks continued carefully, choosing each lie like a tailor choosing thread. He said Jerry had met a rich white woman, said he moved out, said he no longer wanted the old life he promised, said he was thinking about marriage. The words hit Chidera like blows. "That is not possible," she whispered. "I was shocked too," Chooks said softly. "But life abroad changes people." That night, Chidera cried until morning. And somewhere in a cold cell, Jerry kept telling strangers he was innocent. Neither of them knew they were both prisoners now. One behind bars, the other inside a lie. And the man who built both prisons had only just started.
Chooks did not rush. That was part of what made him dangerous. He did not try to claim Chidera immediately. He moved like a patient snake, staying close, sounding kind, offering comfort when she was weakest. He called often, sometimes 3 times a day. In the morning, he checked if she had eaten. At night, he let her cry. On weekends, he sent money just to help small. To everyone watching, he looked like a loyal friend stepping in after Jerry's betrayal. Chidera hated herself for depending on him, but loneliness has a way of bending even strong people. She was grieving a living person. She did not know whether to mourn Jerry, hate him, or keep hoping. What confused her most was the feeling in her spirit. Something about Chooks' story never sat well. Jerry was not perfect, but abandonment did not sound like him. The entire purpose of traveling abroad had been to build a future. He had spoken too clearly, too often, about bringing her into that future. Still, silence is powerful, and Chooks used it well. Whenever doubt rose in Chidera's heart, Chooks would say something gentle. Whenever pain made her question him, a gift would arrive. Whenever she sounded distant, he acted hurt but patient. Slowly, he became the voice she heard most. But inside prison, Jerry's suffering was just beginning. The cell was cold, crowded, and merciless. He kept repeating the truth, but to the authorities, he was just another accused man with a familiar excuse. The days became months, the months became years. Yet even there, Jerry refused to become bitter. He cleaned, he helped, he endured. And one prison officer began to notice. The story was shifting again, only Chooks did not know it.
Life hit Chidera harder when trouble entered her father's house. One evening, her younger brother burst in, breathless and shaking. "Daddy has collapsed." Within minutes, the whole family was rushing to a private hospital in her village near Aba. After tests, the doctor's face told the truth before his mouth did. Chidera's father needed urgent surgery. The amount required felt impossible. Their family did not have that kind of money. That night became a desperate parade of phone calls. Chidera called relatives. Her mother cried and begged. People promised support, but the money came in drops while the hospital wanted a river. At last, Chidera did something she did not want to do. She called Chooks. He listened quietly as she explained everything through tears. When she finished, there was a pause. Then he said, "Send the hospital account." Chidera hesitated. "It is a lot." I said, "Send it." 2 hours later, the full amount had been paid. Chidera sat down slowly when the nurse confirmed it. Her father's surgery could now happen because of Chooks. The family praised him immediately. Her mother called him a blessing. Her uncles called him a responsible young man. The surgery was done. For a few days, hope returned. Then hope vanished. 2 weeks later, the hospital called at dawn. Chidera's father was dead. The cry that left her that morning sounded like something tearing in half. And through burial preparations, condolence visits, canopy payments, and funeral expenses, one person remained constantly by the family's side: Chooks. Every act of support tied Chidera and her family more tightly to him. What they saw was kindness. What they did not see was investment. Grief made the family vulnerable, and Chooks stepped into that space perfectly. He paid for part of the burial, paid for drinks, sent condolences to the elders. He comforted Chidera's mother. He was constantly checking up on Chidera during the funeral, like someone already joined to the family by blood. The village noticed. They always do. Soon, people began saying the same thing in different ways. A man who stands beside you in sorrow is a man worth keeping. Chidera heard all of it. Each statement landed on top of her grief until resistance became exhausting. The small voice inside her that still doubted Chooks did not disappear, but it was getting harder to defend against community pressure, family gratitude, and Jerry's silence. Months passed. Then, almost 2 years after Jerry's disappearance, Chooks returned to Nigeria. He looked transformed, cleaner, richer, more polished. He had the glow of a man who had made it abroad. When he visited Chidera's family, everyone welcomed him warmly. Her mother nearly cried while blessing him. That evening, Chooks asked Chidera to walk with him outside the compound. They stood under a mango tree as dusk softened the sky. He brought out a ring. "Chidera," he said gently, "life did not go the way we expected, but I have always cared about you." He opened the box fully. "Marry me." Chidera's heart pulled in opposite directions. Gratitude, pressure, loneliness, and a love for Jerry that had never fully died. Finally, she said yes, but she added one condition: there will be no intimacy until we are fully married. Chooks agreed too quickly. He thought he was close to victory. He did not know that far away, Inside a prison corridor, a quiet officer had just decided to look again at Jerry's case.
Jerry had spent 2 years repeating one sentence: "I am innocent." Most people ignored him, some mocked him, but one older prison officer kept noticing the same thing. Jerry never behaved like the guilty men he had seen for years. He did not fight, he did not brag, he did not sink into rage. He just carried pain like a man trying not to break. One afternoon, the officer stopped him while he was sweeping. "You keep saying the drugs were not yours," the man said. "They were not," Jerry replied. The officer studied his face. "Then how did they get there?" Jerry swallowed. "The only person who had access to my bag was my friend." "Which friend?" "My flatmate, Chooks." Jerry told the whole story. Abba, the journey abroad, the shared apartment, the arrest. The feeling in his spirit that the setup had come from the one person he trusted most. When he finished, the officer remained quiet for a long time. Then he said something unexpected. "My younger brother was framed by his best friend many years ago." Jerry looked up. Nobody believed him, the officer continued. "He died in prison before the truth came out." The corridor became still. The officer's face hardened with memory. "If you are telling the truth, someone stole years of your life." That evening, he reopened the case. Once the investigation began, the story changed fast. Phone records showed no contact between Jerry and drug dealers. Surveillance near the building revealed suspicious timing. Access records and movement patterns pointed to one person with both opportunity and motive: Chooks. The final report was clear. Jerry had been framed. The prison gates opened days later, and sunlight hit his face like something holy. He received an official pardon and compensation large enough to rebuild what had been destroyed. But Jerry was not thinking about money. He was thinking about Chidera.
Jerry bought a new phone and a new SIM card almost immediately. His hands were not steady when he dialed Chidera's number. 2 years had passed. He did not know if she was married, bitter, broken, or gone. He only knew that if he did not hear her voice, the freedom he had just received would still feel incomplete. The phone rang. Once. Twice. Then she answered. "Hello?" Jerry closed his eyes. Her voice hit him like memory and pain together. "Ne, it's me," he said softly. Silence. Then a whisper. "Jerry?" She sounded shocked, angry, trembling. "You abandoned me," she said. "You disappeared." Jerry took a breath. "Chidera, something terrible happened to me after we arrived." "What happened?" "I was arrested." For a moment, she thought she heard wrong. "You what?" "The police searched my bag and said they found drugs." Chidera gasped. "Jerry, you do not even smoke." "I know." "What happened after that?" "They took me to prison." The world tilted under her feet. "How long?" 2 years. Chidera sat down hard. For 2 years, she had believed he left her for another woman. Now the truth was walking toward her, sentence by sentence. "But how did drugs enter your bag?" "They were planted there." Her throat tightened. "By who?" Jerry paused. Then he said the name, Chooks. The silence that followed felt like something physical. Then Chidera began to speak, slowly at first, then with growing panic. She told Jerry about the blocked calls, the lie about a white woman, the daily calls, the gifts, the money, her father's illness, the surgery, the death, the family's gratitude. Then she reached the part that made Jerry go very still. "Chooks asked me to marry him." Jerry said nothing. Chidera kept going like someone confessing on their own. "The traditional wedding is next week Saturday."
Jerry did not speak for several seconds after hearing about the wedding. Chidera thought the call had dropped. Then he asked quietly, "How many days from now?" 10. Jerry inhaled slowly. After 2 years in prison, fate had placed the man who destroyed his life directly in front of him again. But Jerry's voice when it came was not loud. It was calm. Chidera listened carefully. Her heart pounded. "I'm listening." "Do not tell Chooks we spoke." Chidera frowned. "What?" "Continue behaving normally. Continue with the preparations. Let him think everything is working." "What are you planning?" Jerry looked out the window beside him. For years he had imagined what justice would look like. Now he understood something clearly. A man like Chooks should not just be exposed. He should be exposed publicly. "I'm coming home," Jerry said. Chidera's breath caught. To her surprise, part of her fear eased the moment he said those words. Jerry was alive. Jerry was returning. Jerry still sounded like Jerry. Wounded, yes, but steady. He asked careful questions after that. Who in the family truly knew the details? Who could be trusted? What exactly had been arranged for the traditional wedding? Chidera explained that Chooks and his people were coming early on the wedding day to complete the marriage rites before the public celebration. Jerry listened. Then he asked to meet one elder secretly before he arrived. By the time the call ended, Chidera felt like two worlds were standing inside her, the false one Chooks had built and the real one that had just returned. For the first time in years, she cried for the right reason. Not because Jerry abandoned her, but because he never did. Meanwhile, Chooks was sleeping peacefully, dreaming about the triumph ahead. He did not know that the wedding he was funding with pride was becoming a stage built for his own destruction.
Jerry returned to Nigeria quietly. No grand entrance, no announcement, no family gathering. He came in like a man carrying unfinished business. After landing in Lagos, he traveled straight to the east and avoided every unnecessary eye. Chidera saw him first in secret. For a moment, both of them just stared. Time had changed him. Prison had stripped softness from his face and replaced it with a deeper stillness. But it was still Jerry. The same eyes, the same steady presence. Chidera broke first. She burst into tears and dropped to her knees, apologizing. Jerry lifted her gently. He was hurt, yes, angry too, but he could see clearly that she had been manipulated with cruelty and patience. Her shame was real. Her restraint with Chooks had mattered. Her doubt had mattered. That night, Jerry met quietly with Chidera's mother, uncle, and two elders who were trusted enough to handle truth well. He explained everything, from the drugs to the prison to the pardon. He showed evidence. He showed documents. He showed the compensation records and the official clearing of his name. The room sat in silence when he finished. Then Chidera's uncle spoke. "A man who destroys his friend to steal a woman is not fit to marry anybody's daughter." The elders agreed. They formed a plan, because Chidera's late father had a long-standing principle. He did not collect bride price from his in-laws. He believed good treatment and peace mattered more than money. So on the public day, Chooks and his family would come with money and drinks for the rites, expecting acceptance. Instead, Chidera's uncle would politely reject the bride price, in keeping with the father's principle. Chooks would think he had been honored. He would not know the family had already chosen another man.
The secret arrangement happened 2 days before the public wedding. Only a few people were present. No loud music, no crowd, no flashy clothes. Just family, witnesses, and a kind of quiet tension that changes lives. Jerry came respectfully, carrying what tradition required and what honor demanded. Since Chidera's father had never taken bride price from any in-law, the family did not turn the process into a negotiation over money. Instead, there were blessings, prayers, acceptance, a quiet joining witnessed by few, but enough. Chidera's uncle received Jerry not as a visitor, but as the man the family had chosen after learning the truth. Palm wine was blessed. Elders spoke. Jerry was one to care for Chidera with patience and honor. He agreed. By the time he left that compound, something serious had happened. Though the public did not know, Chidera had already been given rightly. That same evening, Chooks called, full of excitement. He spoke about the expensive canopy, the musicians, the cows, the drinks, the matching outfits, the guests coming from different cities. Chidera answered gently and gave him nothing to suspect. She even asked about the lace material they had chosen before. Chooks laughed proudly, fully convinced he had won. What he did not know was that Jerry had done something else quietly. He had forwarded the investigation file, evidence, and travel details to security contacts who had already shown interest in the case. Because framing a man abroad with drugs was not a simple personal matter, it carried criminal weight. By the next morning, arrangements were in motion. 6 plainclothes agents would attend the event. They would not move early.
they would wait until the truth had fully disgraced the lie. And that meant Chooks would be allowed to sit like a king first. Only so he could fall harder.
Chooks and his family arrived early, dressed beautifully, and carrying all the things custom demanded: cash envelopes, drinks, kola nuts, respectful greetings. They came expecting to complete the marriage rites properly before the larger celebration opened. The mood was warm, even joyful. Chidera remained indoors while elders handled the discussion. Chooks sat nearby with the confidence of a man whose future had already been delivered. His parents smiled often. Some of their relatives praised Chidera's late father for raising a good daughter. Then came the moment to present the bride price. Chidera's uncle lifted a hand gently. He smiled with deliberate warmth. "Our late brother had a principle while he was alive," he said. "He never collected bride price from his in-laws. What mattered most to him was peace, respect, and whether his daughter would be loved and cared for." Chooks' family exchanged glances. The uncle continued. "So today, in honor of him, we will not collect bride price. Keep your money. Let your good relationship with this family be the real price." The room relaxed. Chooks' people took it as uncommon honor. What they did not know was that what looked like acceptance was actually a door closing without noise. The money they brought had been politely rejected. And because they never imagined another arrangement existed, they smiled and thanked the family. By noon, the main celebration had started fully. Guests arrived in large numbers. Food lined one side of the compound. Musicians played louder. Chooks changed into his expensive gold lace outfit and sat on a decorated wooden throne under the canopy. He looked triumphant. He thought he had outsmarted everyone. He did not know 6 security agents were already seated in different corners, dressed like ordinary guests. He did not know the bride had already been given elsewhere. And he definitely did not know that the man he once watched enter a police van was sitting close enough to hear the drums.
When Chidera finally stepped out, the whole compound turned to look. Whispers spread almost immediately. She was not wearing the matching lace that Chooks had spent heavily on. Instead, she wore a striking white and gold Isiagu outfit, paired with a rich Indian George wrapper. The look was elegant, unusual, and impossible to ignore. Some guests thought it was fashion. Others sensed something was off. But ceremony pushes forward even when confusion has already entered the room. The musicians softened as the key moment approached. Chidera's uncle placed the traditional cup of palm wine in her hands. By custom, this was the part everyone loved. The bride would walk among the men, smiling, searching, teasing the crowd, before finally identifying her groom. Chidera stepped into the open space slowly. Men stretched their hands jokingly. She smiled and passed them. The guests laughed. Children tried to move closer. Women adjusted their wrappers. Phones rose subtly. Chooks sat straighter on his throne, chest lifted, one hand already half extended. The closer Chidera came, the wider his smile became. This was the public seal, the moment that would shut every old door and make him unquestionable. Chidera stopped before him. For one heartbeat, the crowd believed it was done. Chooks reached for the cup. Then Chidera looked straight into his eyes. Her face held no warmth, only knowledge, only judgment. Then she smiled a small, dangerous smile, turned and walked past him. The air changed instantly. The music stumbled. Elders lowered their fans. Laughter died in people's throats. Chooks' hand remained stretched out, empty. "What is happening?" someone whispered. That was when the low growl of an engine rolled across the compound. The black Land Cruiser near the canopy had been idling for minutes. Now its door opened, and a man stepped out dressed in the same white and gold Isiagu Astegwazdi.
For a moment, nobody moved. Jerry stepped out of the SUV calmly. Every eye in the compound pulled toward him, as if the earth itself had pointed. His beads caught the afternoon light. His face was steady. His silence alone was enough to unsettle the crowd. Then the whispers began. "Who is that? Wait, is that not Jerry?" The name spread from mouth to mouth until it hit Chooks like a slap.
Jerry. The man he buried with lies. The man he sent to prison. The man who was supposed to be gone. Chooks stood up so fast his seat shook behind him. "This is nonsense," he shouted. "What is this?" But his voice had already lost its power. Jerry walked to where Chidera stood. She turned toward him without hesitation and placed the cup gently in his hand. The compound exploded. Women gasped. Men stood up. Phones came out openly now, because the meaning was clear to everybody present. The bride had found her husband, not the man on the throne, the one Chooks thought he had erased. Then 6 men rose from different parts of the canopy at the same time. Until that second, they had looked like ordinary guests. Now they moved with purpose. One stepped forward, produced identification, and spoke in a voice that cut clean through the noise. "Chooks Okafor, you are under arrest." Chooks staggered back. For what? For conspiracy, fraudulent setup, and criminal acts connected to the false imprisonment of Jerry. He did not hear the rest. Cold handcuffs snapped around his wrists. The crowd roared in disbelief. Jerry did not raise his voice. He only looked at him and said, "You should have left my life alone." As the agents led Chooks away, the compound slowly settled. Shock remained. Gossip had already begun. But the pots were still full. The rice was still hot. And this was still Nigeria. So after justice sat down, people sat down too. Because no matter how big the scandal is, nobody leaves when the jollof rice is still steaming.
If this story is touching your heart, please take a second to subscribe. Your support truly means the world and helps us bring you more powerful stories.